Stop. Write down the answer to this. 847 plus 293 plus 516. No calculator, no phone. 15 seconds. Go. How did that feel? Slow? A little stuck? There is an 11-year-old girl in Matsuyama City, Japan, who just solved that problem, plus 4 others exactly like it, in 2.3 seconds, mentally with her eyes closed. The method she used is called soroban, Japan's wooden abacus system. And it is not a gift. It is a skill. It used to be taught in American schools but disappeared in 1975. And by the end of this video, you will have begun to learn it yourself. The first time I walked into a soroban-juku, a soroban training academy, the kind that still operates on every other block in Matsuyama City, I expected noise. What I found was 20 children sitting perfectly still, eyes closed, fingers tracing patterns in the air in front of them. Every movement precise. A single wooden abacus clicked at the front of the room, operated by a man named Hiroshi Tanaka, who kept his eyes on his students and let the sound do all the talking. The room smelled like cedar and chalk. The floor was warm underfoot, despite the windows being open in November. When the exercise ended, Tanaka-san struck the abacus frame once with his palm, a single sharp crack, and every child opened their eyes and wrote a number. I checked the nearest paper against my phone calculator. The girl had written 1,656. Correct. She had beaten my phone to the answer before I finished entering the third number. I looked at Tanaka-san. He smiled. 2 words in English. She's average. Here is what is happening inside those children's minds. The soroban, counted tray in English, is a wooden abacus with beads representing place values. Students begin by moving the beads physically. But the real training, the stage called anzan, dark calculation, begins when the tool is removed entirely. The student holds a perfect visual image of the abacus inside their own mind and calculates on an imaginary instrument that exists only in their skull. In competitive flash anzan, practitioners solve problems with 15 numbers flashing for just 0.2 seconds each. When researchers at Kyoto University, including Dr. Hanakawa's team, scanned soroban-trained adults during arithmetic, the region that lit up was the right parietal cortex, the visuospatial processing center, the same region you use to catch a ball or read a map. Western-trained adults doing identical problems activated Broca's area, the language center. They were talking themselves through the math 1 word at a time. Soroban practitioners were seeing it. Seeing is significantly faster than talking. Studies show performance improvements of 300 to 500% over traditional calculation methods. Remember that problem from the start of this video. 847 plus 293 plus 516. A soroban practitioner did not add those numbers. They watched columns of beads shift simultaneously across 3 place values and read the result like reading a clock face. The answer appeared. It was not computed. It was seen. And here is what makes that significant for you specifically. Practitioners aged 60 to 75 in bilateral brain activation studies showed no measurable cognitive decline in working memory benchmarks compared to age-matched non-practitioners who showed standard age-related decline curves. The decline most Americans accept as inevitable was simply absent. The soroban is not arithmetic practice. It is applied neuroscience refined over 4 centuries. So why has nobody told you about this? Because this tool did not begin in Japan. It began in Mesopotamia around 2700 BCE, where Sumerian accountants in the city of Ur used physical bead counting boards to track grain and taxes. The clay tablets documenting those transactions still exist. The cognitive principle those accountants discovered, that the human brain processes physical position faster than abstract symbol, is the same principle that girl in Matsuyama is using today. Every civilization that faced the problem of large-scale calculation arrived at the same answer independently. The Romans called their version the calculae, a bronze hand abacus carried by tax collectors and military engineers across the empire. The Chinese developed the suanpan around the 2nd century BCE. The Aztecs built the Nepahualtzintzin. Separated by oceans and centuries, human beings kept arriving at the same solution. That is not coincidence. That is physics finding its preferred answer. Japan received the abacus from China in the late 16th century and spent 3 centuries transforming it from a counting device into a complete cognitive training system. Certified Q and Dan levels, standardized curricula overseen by the Japan Abacus Committee, cultural weight equal to calligraphy or tea ceremony. Dr. Shizuko Amaiwa, professor emeritus at Kyoto University, published studies between 1987 and 2004 proving soroban-trained children outperformed control groups not just in arithmetic, but in spatial reasoning, working memory, and reading comprehension. The training jumped the wall of mathematics entirely. Japan never saw a reason to set it aside. The rest of the world did. And the story of how that happened is quieter and sadder than you might expect. In 1975, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics quietly removed abacus instruction from its recommended curriculum framework. No announcement or debate or study comparing abacus outcomes to calculator outcomes was commissioned or cited. The soroban simply stopped appearing in the documents that shaped what American children learned. Within a single generation, a cognitive tradition present in American classrooms since the early 1900s had effectively vanished, quietly set aside. Ironically, calculators remain banned from major competitive exams like the SAT Math Level 2 and International Mathematics Olympiads, the very places where soroban skills provide the greatest advantage. The timing matters. 1975 was the same year Texas Instruments launched its first scientific calculators and began offering subsidized units directly to school districts. The NCTM's 1980 Agenda for Action, the document that formally embedded calculator use in American math education, described calculators as tools of empowerment and manual calculation, as rote drudgery unsuited to modern students. The abacus was not given a test. It was simply described as old. In America, in 1980, old was enough. The market that replaced it is worth $8.3 billion annually today. Lumosity and BrainHQ alone generate over $1.1 billion per year, marketing cognitive benefits that soroban practice delivers measurably for $14. In 2016, the Federal Trade Commission fined Lumosity $2 million for false advertising, specifically for claiming their app improved memory and cognitive health without adequate scientific evidence. That fine is documented public record. A $14 wooden tool from Japan was delivering what their subscriptions promised. There is no villain in this story. There is only practice that built something deep and lasting was replaced by something faster and more convenient. By the time the neuroscience arrived to confirm what had been lost, the generation that might have fought for it was already gone. That is how knowledge disappears. Think about what that actually means for you personally. If you were born before 1970, there is a reasonable chance abacus instruction was still present in your school district when you started elementary school. You may have missed it by a few years. You may have been in a district that dropped it early. Either way, a decision made in a conference room in 1975, not by teachers, parents, or anyone who ever sat with a child and watched them learn, quietly closed a door that most Americans never knew existed. You did not fail to learn this. You were not given the chance. That is a different thing entirely. And it matters, because it means the door was never locked. It was just left unmarked. And you are standing in front of it right now. Now, if you already own a brain, and I am going to assume you do, and you are thinking this only applies to children in formal training, this next part is specifically for you. Adult neuroplasticity research on soroban is unambiguous. Measurable changes in visuospatial processing appear within 8 to 12 weeks of consistent practice. You do not need Level 1 DAN certification. You only need 20 minutes a day and a $14 tool. A standard 13-column soroban is on Amazon. Search Japanese soroban 13-column. Authentic Japanese-made versions ship from California for $12 to $18. Begin with place value recognition. Each column right to left. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. Lower beads equal 1 each. Upper bead equals 5. Spend your first week moving between 0 and 9 in a single column until the motion is automatic. You are learning vocabulary before grammar. The arithmetic follows faster than you expect. Your first session will feel strange. Not difficult, but strange. You will pick up the soroban, and it will feel lighter than you expected. Maybe 8 or 9 ounces of cedar and wire. You will move the first bead and hear a small click that is surprisingly satisfying. Then you will try to hold a 2-digit number across 2 columns simultaneously, and your brain will do something you have not felt in a long time. It will reach for a spatial image instead of a word. It will not find one yet. That reaching feeling, that slight disorientation, is not confusion. That is your visuospatial cortex being asked to do a job it was designed for, but has never been assigned. By the end of that first 20 minutes, the single-column movements will start to feel less like arithmetic and more like a physical skill, closer to learning a chord on a guitar than solving a problem on a worksheet. That is exactly what is happening. You are not studying. You are training. Gary Thornton, a retired engineer from Boise, Idaho, age 67, documented a 34.7% improvement in mental arithmetic accuracy after 8 weeks of daily soroban practice. He described a half-second processing delay that had developed gradually through his 60s, something he had accepted as simply part of aging, as gone. His total investment was $13 and 40 hours of practice spread across 2 months. Compare that to a Lumosity subscription at $59.99 per year, a platform the Federal Trade Commission determined could not scientifically support its own claims. The soroban costs $14 once. What it builds inside your brain belongs to you permanently. Think about where you started this video. A math problem, a blank moment, and that friction. Think about where you are right now. You know what soroban is. You know what Anzan does to the brain. You know exactly what to buy and exactly where to begin. That is not a small thing. If you are the kind of person who believes that real, practical knowledge has been quietly set aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. Next week, I am going to show you the Japanese memory method called Kyoku Jutsu, a visualization system used by feudal samurai that a Kyoto University researcher rediscovered in a 1983 archive receiving fewer than 40 visitors per year. The Ministry of Education tried to remove it from national curriculum in 1966. They failed. And the reason they failed is a story you need to hear. Subscribe, and I will see you there.